Alright, here we are back for our first match of this league. I think I'll keep this hand. It's not bad. It kind of sucks that we already have Gush, but we have a turn 1 Delver on the play and a Ponder to help us out. I'm so happy I got these. They went down to 50 cents. I couldn't believe it. I remember at a time when these were like $5 and one of the most rarest things. It makes me so happy. It does suck though that like the cool looking preordains from the dual decks are expensive as hell though. Like now those are the $5 cards. But oh well. Alright, so we'll start off by going Delver. We'll pass the turn. One thing that this deck doesn't play, you'll notice, is Daze, because Daze can be kind of a liability. Um, you know. That's funny. I just took the Hydroblast out of the deck, like a few days ago, because I wasn't running into much burn, and now I did. Alright, so we get to flip our Delver, which isn't terrible. Burn is really bad game one, because you don't really have much to do against them. Um, okay, so the question is, do I want to keep both lands? Do I want to keep the Preordain, or do I want to just go Evolving Wilds and shuffle away everything? I think what I want to do is I want to keep the Preordain and the Thornwood Falls. So that is what I'm going to do. Nope. Gain a life, attack for 3, and pass the turn. So yeah, I originally had 3 Hydroblast, but then I rediscovered Piracy Charm a few days ago, and it was helping me out. And it sucks that I don't have it anymore, but I suppose crap happens. Alright, so we'll get in for 3. And I think here we can play Werebear, actually. The reason is if my opponent kills it, it's whatever. And by playing Werebear now next turn, we can go Nimble Mongoose. We can also Evolving Wilds, and then we can Preordain. Alright, so my opponent played Keldon Marauders. Well, Vapor Snag can get used now, which is good. Oh, God, my back. Sorry. I didn't mean to do that. My back's giving me problems today. So, alright, so we'll play Evolving Wilds. We'll crack it for an island. And, um, let's go ahead and... Well, we're not attacking with the Werebear. So let's go ahead and get in for 3. See what my opponent does. I guess I could have preordained into like... No, that wouldn't have actually done anything. Let's go ahead and attack for 3. And then we will preordain. Or I will preordain, I guess. My opponent needle dropped me. Okay, you got it. Una's Grace, we definitely don't need. The other Ponder, we can definitely use. But not right now, really. Do we even need the Ponder? I don't think we even need the Ponder. Okay, Rune Snag was definitely a better draw. So we'll play the Nimble Mongoose now. Thought Scour would be the best draw because then we would automatically have 7 cards in our graveyard, and my opponent would actually be dead next turn. And then I think I'll just say go and see what my opponent does with the Keldon Marauders. If my opponent does nothing, goes to attack with it, I will just bounce it and see what my opponent does again, like so. Alright, so my opponent replayed the Keldon Marauders, of course. That is to be expected. Alright, go to 12. Anything else? No. The cool thing is, like, if we can get, like, a Thought Scour and my opponent tries to kill my Werebear in response, we can make it a 4-4, which would be cool. We have exactly 10 damage on the board if we can get Threshold. So that'd be fun. Evolving Wilds. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and crack that for now. And actually, I think that is the win. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know why it's not the win? Because I can't replay a land. So the problem would then be if I go to Gush. Oh, no, wait. No. Never mind. Well, no, because... Well, any type of bolt effect can kill my Insectile Aberration. So, if I go to Gush and my opponent doesn't respond by going something, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I can't hold up Rune Snag. And this combined would be 8, and my opponent would go to 2, and then we could just die. So the question now becomes, um, well, I guess there's no harm in not gushing and seeing what my opponent does either way. Because then I can just Vapor Snag and I can leave up Rune Snag. And not draw many good cards here, though. So I'll go ahead and Vapor Snag, and now my Werebear will become a 4/4. And my Nimble Mongoose will become a 3/3, and we'll see how my opponent reacts. Alright, and my opponent decided to go for Lightning Bolt in response. The correct play there was to let the Vapor Snag go, let me go to beginning of combat when I don't have any mana floating, and then do it. If my opponent has a Fire Blast, they can Fire Blast the Werebear, and then they have 1 land, and I'm at 10, and they're going to be at 5? No, they're going to be at 3, which would be fine. So if my opponent has Fire Blast, they live, but then they're not in a great position. Alright, we got their game 1. So, kind of got lucky to get there. Needed my opponent to play into my trap, and they did, so that's cool. As far as what to bring in, we really only have Dispels. That's really all we have. Moment's Peace isn't very good here. First of all, it doesn't stop Thermal Alchemist, and just to bring in Moment's Peace just to stop a Keldon Marauders does not bode very well. Since we're all in the draw, I'm not a big fan of Gush, because on the draw we're going to be playing more of a controlling role. In this matchup, Una's Grace I think isn't very good because we're never really going to get to actually use Una's Grace for value. The game should be over by then. And I don't like Deprive too much. I don't like setting myself back on a land when Dispel probably will just do the same thing. One thing that we could do is bring in Piracy Charm, but I think that for the +2/+1 or even just the discard, it's not going to do as much as some other cards. Cards that I think you could shave would be like a Vapor Snag and a Rune Snag for Piracy Charm, but I think these two cards are going to do more anyway. So we're just going to submit, go right back into it, and see what happens. Burn is not the best matchup for you. Burn is actually, I would say, borderline one of the absolute worst. Specifically because, well, one, it doesn't take much for them to win. And 2, you don't really have much to stop a Keldon Marauders getting in, so that's just 5 free damage right there. You don't really have any ways. I mean, you could bring in Naturalize to kill the Curse the Pierce Dart, but that just seems bad. This hand isn't terrible. It doesn't have a threat, but it's got a Thought Scour in case we draw a Brainstorm or a Ponder. It's got a couple counterspells. Drawing a 5th land there in an 18-land deck kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? I'm just going to play the Thornwood Fall so I can have 2 blue mana up next turn. I'd rather play that than the Evolving Wilds to gain a life as well. Especially because I think if I draw a Brainstorm, I'm going to want to put the Evolving Wilds into the graveyard. Having lands that come into play untapped in this matchup is quite important. Because you need to have counterspells almost every turn. The fact that my opponent didn't deal with my Delver last game, I think, and I got to flip it is also why I won. Alright, well, I'm just going to play the Thornwood Falls. The reason being that if my opponent My opponent's gonna suspend the Rift Bolt, and I'm not gonna waste a counterspell on it. And unless my opponent plays a creature, anything they play is probably going to be an instant anyway, so I'm just gonna dispel it. I wouldn't counter a Curse of the Pierce Tart if they had it, so. And if I find out my opponent is playing Flame Rift, well, sucks to be me. I wouldn't counter Chain Lightning, so that's another thing. I think here I thought Scarrow myself. I'll probably hit 2 spells because that's just the world I live in. Yep, hit 2 spells. Venture Land. Alright. Well, now I'll play Evolving Wilds and crack it, and I'll get an island. And I'll pass the turn. My opponent gets a free instant here because I have to leave up Counterspell. Alright, well. They didn't play anything, so it could signify they have some Searing Blazes in their hand, maybe another land. There's another land. They probably have at least a Fire Blast, so that is something to consider. Another Counterspell is good, but I'm just going to play Evolving Wilds. I don't want to play the Werebear unless it's automatically a 4/4. If you're wondering why I'm not playing the Werebear. Next turn I'll play the Werebear. I also want to leave up Werebear plus Counterspell and Dispel. And I think I can wait. Alright, so my opponent's not playing anything. What the heck could that mean? A Preordain is good. So I'll play the island. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, I think here I'll just Preordain. And I'll play the Werebear next turn. No, we don't need these. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. That's soon to be 2 8/8s. My opponent bolting me, I guess? No, nothing. So they have to have at least 2 Fire Blasts in their hand? That's interesting. Maybe they have a Needle Drop as well? They must have, like, a combination of, like, Fire Blast, Searing Blazes in their hand. I'm gonna let the Lava Spike resolve. I think it still takes 4 burn spells to kill me. Unless they have double Fire Blast, but I can deal with double Fire Blast for right now. So that's not really an issue. Alright. Another Dispel. That's very good. So I'll go ahead and play Werebear, and we'll just pass the turn. I want to leave up as many counter spells as possible. So I should have Evolving Walls that one turn, and then my Werebear would be an 8/8 automatically already. So that was a little bit of a mistake. That was me mislooking at my graveyard. So I go to 7, then it takes 3 burn spells to kill me. I think here I'll actually just counterspell the Lava Spike. I guess my opponent could also have some combinations of Pyroblast in their hand. That is also true. But I don't know. All right, I'll counterspell that as well, because that's just going to make it easier for my opponent to actually win the game. I guess now they could play a land in Searing Blaze and put me to 7. It wouldn't actually do much. These counter Fire Blast, so that's a good thing. If my opponent has Bolt, Fire Blast, I'm dead anyway. Alright, looks like they don't, so that's good for me. Like, if I had died there to Bolt, Fire Blast, good beats. But I think that I'm going to have a hard time beating that anyway, so I might as well have just countered the Curse of the Pierce Tart. My opponent could also just have lands in hand. They must have at least 1 Fire Blast, though. So, like, maybe if they had a Needle Drop, they would have Needle Dropped me. So we're going to Preordain. See what Preordain has for me. My opponent bolts me. Bolt is fine. Not really, but Rune Snag and Ponder. Alright. One, two. I will keep the Rune Snag. I think with my opponent only having 4 lands, that'll still be good. And we'll play Werebear. So we win in 2 turns. So that is a good thing. My opponent has 3 cards. If any of them are bricks, it's good for me. My opponent didn't do anything, so let's go ahead and attack for 8. Opponent goes to 8. Let's go ahead and ponder. ponder again. 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'd only be looking for a dispel. I think I'd 1, 2. I think I'd rather just roll the dice and see what I can get. Okay, I'm gonna brainstorm. I guess that's not terrible. My opponent didn't play anything. Jeez, I guess they're just on lands. They're just on complete air. Not upset. Yeah, alright, they played another land. I'm gonna brainstorm. I'm pretty sure I win the game now. With double dispel, my opponent not playing any sorceries. I'm just gonna brainstorm just so I can sculpt kind of a perfect hand. If I had drawn a Thought Scour there, you know. I drew all 3 dispels, which is great. Gonna go ahead and attack for 8. Should be the win. Because sometimes you just beat burn. Sometimes you just beat burn. Oh, my opponent brought in Electrickery. Okay, that I did not see coming. Okay. I did not see that one coming. I did not think my opponent brought in Electrickeries. I guess it kills Nimble Mongoose. I'm going to go ahead and dispel that. I guess it does kill Nimble Mongoose and Delver before it flips, but I'm not going to really play out a Nimble Mongoose until I can win the game. Alright. So got that match. I think bringing in Electrickery, my opponent might not have known what I was doing, but also might have thought, like, if I get the early creature draw. I did not expect to win that game. Alright, so we're 1-0 in this league. Join me for our second match and stay tuned.